I mean, I don't particularly see that Powell has to do anything. I just think that people are hoping that he's going to cut rates, and no one's considering the situation where Powell, for the first time in his career, says, I'm going to stand up for some principle. My base case is I have no fucking idea.
That's a big prediction.
I want to get paid the fucking revenue that these protocols make.
If you could put your money into one asset between now and like the end of the cycle, would it be Solana or would it be ETH? There goes the video of YouTube, but it's been good chatting to you. Okay, less than 24 hours to go until Jackson Hole and Powell's highly anticipated speech. We still got the markets pretty nervous, as you can see. You got them at 113,538. So far, we haven't broken down before this. And as I said to you today we have a big guest with us, and we're going to be talking about everything to do with Jackson Hole, economic policy, and how we see the rest of the year actually playing out. We managed to get 𝗙𝗧𝗪𝗧 on one day before our normal banter. So today's going to be a big show, guys. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, you know exactly what to do. Just subscribe to the channel. Also, if you are here and you are subscribed, help us get distribution of this by just obliterating the like button. There's so much alpha on the show today. I think you guys are going to love it. Before we start the show, though, guys, I'm going to remind you that our banters, whether they come to you on a Thursday when it's an emergency banter or Friday, are always brought to you by NordVPN. You need a VPN if you're going to be in crypto, guys, because otherwise your IP address is exposed. And if your IP address is exposed, the hackers know exactly where you are. The governments know exactly where you are. And I mean, if you use NordVPN, I mean, it's so simple. You literally just choose where you want to be. Like I pretend that I want to be in Cyprus because I want to be on vacation. And then you press connect. And from that point on, for as far as DeFi protocols are concerned, hackers are concerned, you're in Cyprus. And you can do this for $3 a month, guys. If you're in crypto and you're not spending $3 a month protecting yourself, you're not even in the game. Like you can't even call yourself a crypto person if you're not using a VPN. And if you're going to use a VPN, use NordVPN, support the channel. Yeah, and let's make money and let's keep our money together. So it's been a while since we've had Arthur on the show, and I'm going to dig into everything here today. I'm going to go into the macro, I'm going to go into the altcoins, I'm going to get into everything today. Treasury companies, I'm going to cover everything. So we don't really have much time to waste. So let's bring the man of the hour on. Arthur, how are you, my friend?
Absolutely fantastic.
You know, what people here don't know is that in the chat here, you told me that you're coming to visit me in South Africa very soon. And that's got a smile on my face because I'm going to show you such a good time. You're never going to want to leave. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. Anyway, let's get to business because we have to do the business before we play.
You gotta pay for shit.
Yeah, exactly. We got to pay for shit. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of shit going down when you get here. I read this tweet from you. This is the one in particular. It says the tariff bill is coming due in Q3. At least the market believes that. No major econ is created. No major econ is creating enough credit fast enough to boost nominal GDP. So Bitcoin tests 100, ETH tests 3K. Come see my talk at WebEx Asia. So break this down for me. How do you see the rest of the year playing out? The way I kind of see it is Powell has to reduce rates in September. He's pretty much got a gun to his head now. How do you see it? How do you see it playing out?
I mean, I don't particularly see that Powell has to do anything. And I've had this argument with a lot of macro strategists, and they have all sorts of reasons, whether it's, I think the funniest was, one very, very good macro analyst was like, yeah, Powell only makes $190,000 a year. Like, why would he take this sort of bullshit from Trump and he's got to like sell assets? Powell's supposedly worth like $50 or $100 million to fund his lifestyle, and he's just getting berated at work all day. Of course, he's going to resign in May 2026. And then you have every other people say, oh, there's a labor market. Oh, there's XYZ different macro variable says that the U.S. might be in a recession already or will be in one soon, and tariffs are going to upend things and all this sort of stuff. And yeah, I get all of that noise. All these things are happening, but humans are weird, and at weird times, people decide that they have standards and have pride and ego. And if Powell really believes that he's Paul Volcker 2.0, what better way to prove that to the world and cement his legacy than having a big fuck you to Trump by, number one, not cutting rates, and number two, not resigning from the board when his chairmanship ends in May of 2026. So you could have a situation where Powell's sticking around past his past due date, and you have a bunch of other Democrat-appointed governors who try to obstruct Trump's policy. Again, I don't know the probability of that happening, but it's definitely something out there, and I don't think a lot of people are really handicapping that. Now, that doesn't mean that Trump and Bessent won't be able to print the money the way they want to and figure things out. There's all sorts of games that the government can play when they really, really want to print money. So I just think there's a risk out there. I can't put a probability on it. Obviously, I think we're entering in sort of like this no-go zone, right? We have Jackson Hole on Friday. Powell is going to speak. People expect him to say something about what he's going to do in September. Is he going to talk about cutting rates? Is he going to say, no, I believe that rates are not restrictive and maybe they could go even higher? What's he going to say? We don't know. Obviously, the Treasury is still auctioning debt. The reverse repo is at zero. Markets are trading a bit weak, right? As start of the week, we're down 10% from ETH or whatever. So again, I think it's touch and go. Do I think we're going to be higher at the end of the year than we are today? Yes. So don't overtrade it. If you're in a position and you don't use any leverage, who cares? Maybe it's down another 15-20% by the end of this week. I don't know. If you've got some spare cash on the sidelines, it's a great chance to buy the dip. But yeah, do I believe that they're going to print money in the end of the year? Absolutely. Do I think Bitcoin's going to be 250,000, ETH maybe 10,000+ by the end of the year? Absolutely. But I think we have a bit of a choppy period coming between now and sometime in the fall.
Okay, so I agree with everything that you've said, and it plays into our thesis that it's probably going to be some kind of dip between now and the end of the year, and then it's Valhalla by the end of the year. But I mean, I'm looking at the data points. So the data points are that the CPI numbers came in, I think, a little bit cooler than expected. The PPI numbers came in hotter than expected. The jobs numbers had to be revised, which put a lot of egg on everybody's face. And so right now the market's giving us an 83% probability that rates are going to be cut. And I kind of think that, you mentioned things about what Powell could do, but he's an upstanding member, and he's got a lot of integrity, and he's the kind of guy that always seems to do the right thing. So I kind of believe that he will lower rates in September, providing we don't get.
Why is lowering rates the right thing? The BLS is a piece of horse shit, right? It's completely partisan. The data is garbage. CPI is garbage, right? Ask any real person, a statistician, and they can give you 15 ways to Sunday. Well, you can make the model say one thing and the model say another thing. Trump gets fired, the head of the BLS. So you can imagine that the BLS is going to say whatever Trump wants them to say. So Powell could sit up there and say, hey, we're not really clear on this data. We need more time. We're going to keep rates at 4.5, right? I'm just playing devil's advocate here from all the people who say, oh, the data says that he's got to cut rates. In 2022, people thought the data said there was a recession. He's going to cut rates. What did he say? No, we're going hawkish. Fuck your portfolio. We're raising 75 basis points. So we could have that sort of situation. Markets sold off aggressively after that Jackson Hole in 2022. So I think we could have a situation where people are severely disappointed in what Powell does because all this data is garbage.
Okay, but let's make I think the baseline assumption for me is at least 25 bips in September, and I just think if nothing else, it's just that he's tired of getting all this abuse. I got to be honest.
Are you sure about that? What has made you think that he's tired of getting all this abuse? Doesn't this prove that he's Paul Volcker? He's standing up to the man. He's going to keep the integrity of the Federal Reserve from the overreaching U.S. president who's coming in there and telling him what to do. No, I care about the dollar and that all this other bullshit, right?
So what's your base case? What's your base case? No rate cuts this year? 1 rate cut this year? 2 rate cuts this year? What's the base case?
My base case is I have no fucking idea. I'm just saying I'm not going to be over long or over leveraged long or putting up positions that I can't get out of quickly because I'm, dead set that the Fed has to cut rates because of these fugazi data points that people point out, right? You can argue it both ways. I just think that people are hoping that he's going to cut rates, and no one's considering the situation where Powell, for the first time in his career, says, I'm going to stand up for some principle and say, fuck you to Trump. Because he cut rates during the presidential election to help Kamala Harris win. Obviously, she didn't. But, the labor market was strong. Unemployment was low. There was, above his target inflation, yet he cut 50 basis points to help Kamala Harris. And the Fed went on record, some of the governors, not exactly Powell, but others saying the Fed should do whatever it's in its power to make sure that Trump does not get elected. So again, the people on the Fed board of governors don't like him. And so there is this possibility where they say, you know what, the market says 83% because of these data points and how we're supposed to act, but fuck that. I'm the head of the Federal Reserve, and I believe that this institution is above partisan politics, and therefore we're not cutting rates. I'm just putting that out there as a possibility. I don't have a strong opinion either way. I'm not trading based on whether the Fed cuts 50 basis points or not. Trump invested in so many other ways to juice the markets, and if Powell comes out in Jackson Hole, then subsequent to that in the September FOMC meeting, and doesn't cut, then it just puts more impetus on them to go further afield in the types of creative ways that they can print money in the U.S. monetary system. And so, yes, we could have some short-term pain, but that galvanizes Trump and Bessent to go more aggressive and more out-of-the-box thinking about how they're going to print money to advance their economic agenda.
So is your base case that they start printing money before the end of the year? Is your base case that in one form
they'll do something? I don't know what that something is. There's all sorts of ways. Myself and other commentators have, put out theories on what they could do, and different laws and different organizations that could stealthily add credit or print money, whatever. I've written however many essays about XY different ways and they can do it. I don't know what they're going to choose, but I sure as hell know that if Powell says, I'm not cutting rates, they're going to figure out a way to juice the markets.
Okay, so you say that ETH goes to 3K. So you're saying, is your money on ETH testing 3K before it breaks through all-time high, or not? Or
I don't think so. I mean, I made that call before ETH had smashed through 4,000, and obviously people saw on chain, and I bought back some of the ETH that I sold. So the chart says it's going higher. So you can't fight the market.
Okay,
do I think that we could maybe test 4,000 if there's a very hawkish statement from Powell at the Jackson Hole symposium on Friday? Absolutely.
So when I look at the ETH chart, so Bitcoin 70 odd percent above its previous all-time high. ETH, you could say, is like just struggling to break its previous all-time high. Do you see like a massive catch-up trade? Do you see ETH also doing like a 70% above its previous all-time high and going up to like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7,000 before the end of the cycle?
I think ETH goes 10, 20,000 before the end of the cycle, right? Once it's broken through, then it's a gap of air to the upside, and you have obviously all these digital asset treasury companies who are just raising money, and it's going to be even easier to raise money if the asset that they're buying has just broken through its all-time high and it's just ascending upwards. So I think that the sky's the limit, and that really depends on how much capital these companies can raise, how much money they're going to print. I'm not a 4-year cycle guy. If the cycle will last however long the cycle lasts, I don't think Trump has really. They haven't gotten into their groove of how they're going to print money yet. They're putting in all the pieces. They're teasing different ways in which they can do it. They're telling you, hey, we want to run things hot. Here are different ways where he's throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks in terms of ways to print money. And I think once we get through this Fed question, who's the head of the Fed? How many governors does Trump have that are loyal to him? Does he fire Powell or for cause or some other people, right? There's different ways and he can get what he wants. I think that gets resolved sometime in the middle of next year. And then we have from middle of 2026 until Trump leaves office for them to go absolutely insane with how much money they're going to print. So because again, you cannot win an election without printing money. And the Democrats are going to print money. And so he has to print money. If he doesn't hand out the goodies, then all his boys are not getting reelected.
So you believe that this could be a very protracted cycle. In other words, abandon the 4-year cycle. Trump, you're saying, has got off to a slow start, so to speak, in terms of being able to implement his massive growth plans. And that could actually take the cycle all the way, I mean, maybe even towards 2027, 2028.
Correct.
Wow. Okay. That would be absolutely amazing. So when you say ETH can go to like 10, 15, 20,000, then you're basically saying it's not by the end of the year. You're saying by, 3-4 years from now.
Yeah, but my base case is we are going to have a massive bull market in all types of financial assets connected to anything that Trump believes is important between now and when he exits office. Because again, he's got to win an election. He's got to win an election in 2026. The only thing voters care about is their wallet. Am I richer today than I was previously? And if I'm not, if I don't feel like I'm advancing economically, then I'll just choose the other guy. So they chose the other guy, Trump over Biden, and they're going to choose the other guy. Pick your congressperson or senator who's running in 2026, who is the Trump heir in 2028 versus whoever the Democrat is. right? The Democrats are saying we're going to print money, right? Look at Mamdani in New York. You have AOC. They're ready. Right? We're printing money. It's socialism. Come on, let's go. Like, we're giving the goodies. So Republicans, you giving goodies? You're not giving goodies? Okay, I'm staying home. I'm not voting.
You make me want to vote Democrat. Like if they're going to print money, I'm just here for the money printing.
They all print money at the end of the day. It doesn't matter.
Okay. ETH managed to catch like this massive Wall Street narrative. I think a lot of things just happened all in perfect succession. First, there was the Circle IPO, which did a lot better than expected. It was all eyes on stablecoins. The stablecoin narrative became the stablecoin on ETH narrative. Then you had Joseph Lubin and Tom Lee both launched their bazookas into the ETH market. And now ETH has become like the darling asset of Wall Street. It's like, it's all the real world assets are going to be there. It's got, the one charismatic, I call them Batman and Superman. You got Joseph Lubin and you got Tom Lee going up on CNBC every second day, and he's got a big microphone on CNBC. I have a question for you. Like, if you could put your money into one asset between now and like the end of the cycle, would it be Solana or would it be ETH? Because up until 2 months ago, we all hated ETH. Everybody hated ETH. It was like it's a soul cycle and it's Solana only, and Solana's the fast monolithic chain. Now it's like ETH only.
Look, let's be honest. They're both going to go up. The question is which one goes up more, right? So, I'm an advisor for 𝗙𝗢𝗥𝗄𝗃, right? A Solana digital asset company. So do I believe Solana is going to go up? Absolutely, it's going to go up. Do I believe it's going to go up more than ETH? I don't know, probably not. But again, ETH is a bigger asset to move, but there's a lot of money chasing it. So it's going to be an interesting race between Solana and ETH in terms of who moves faster. And again, it doesn't mean that one loses, right? Everyone's going to make money in this sort of situation. So.
But in terms of a position, you say you'd be more overweight ETH on an absolute basis, like on a percentage basis.
Correct. You'd
be more overweight ETH.
Correct. Yes.
Wow. Okay. So Wall Street's done an amazing about turn here. The treasury companies. I'm interested to know how you feel about investing in these treasury companies. I know you're an advisor to a treasury company, but there's a whole lot of people who are here and they're listening to the show here and they're like thinking to themselves, should I be holding ETH or should I be buying SBET or BMNR at a multiple of net asset value, like maybe 1.8, sometimes 2 around the mNAV? How do you make the investment case for a treasury company for someone who is crypto native? Would you advise that they go for it?
The trade is really you're paying $2 or $1. Why? Because you believe in the effects of passive indexing and how that works. Right. So if I am, I just got off a call with, my advisory call with 𝗙𝗢𝗥𝗄𝗃, and I'm like, hey guys, like, what do you guys need to do? Well, understand which indices could include your stock, which fund managers have a mandate to buy certain types of stock. Okay, what is the average daily trading volume you need to hit? What is the market cap you need to hit? What exchanges do you need to be listed on, right? And so it doesn't matter what the company does. It doesn't matter what the asset is. As long as you meet these criteria, these investors, these fiduciaries, they have to buy your stuff. This is the MicroStrategy trade. This is what Michael Saylor has pioneered. It's in what, S&P 500 or NASDAQ? I don't know.
It's moving into the S&P 500. Apparently, in a couple of weeks, it's going to move into the S&P 500.
Right. So this is a rebalance trade. And this is something I used to do in TradFi a lot, which is, okay, I know what's going to get included into the index. I know the total amount of capital that must buy this and sell that. Right. And so this is what a retail investor has to understand. Okay, well, I'm looking at 𝗙𝗢𝗥𝗄𝗃. Okay, well, here's this company. Here's how it's categorized in the TradFi ecosystem. It's a tech company or whatever. Right. Okay, so I know that Vanguard and BlackRock and State Street and these guys have all these funds, and the fund manager can buy a stock or include a stock if it hits these criteria. Do I believe that the management company of 𝗙𝗢𝗥𝗄𝗃 is going to be able to hit those metrics? And if so, then I'm going to pay $2 or $1, because when these flows come, they don't stop. The passive manager does not care what the company does. His screen says buy this stock because it's in the index. Okay, I'm supposed to follow the index and I buy the stock. That's the trade. That's it. It doesn't matter.
But I mean, does that not create like a leverage in the market? And the thing that I'm saying creates a leverage in the market. You've got $2, you got $1 worth of ETH trading for $2 somewhere. Which means that there's $1 of pure air. Somewhere there's $1 of pure air. In the Michael Saylor example, you could justify it and you could say, look, Michael Saylor was using fixed income money. He was using convertible fixed income money in the first generation to generate yield for equity owners whilst just repaying back the debt plus a little bit of equity to the fixed income holders. But in this generation, all the guys that I speak to are saying, look, we're staying away from leverage because they seem to have learned what Michael Saylor learned, and that is that debt actually becomes recallable, but different asset classes or different share classes don't ever become recallable, and that doesn't cause the liquidation risk. And so now what I'm struggling to do is I'm struggling to attribute a reason to buy $1 for that $1 of air. I'm struggling to find a way to justify.
It gets added to the index. You're betting that this gets added to the index, and there's so much money behind that addition to the index that it's going to, and it doesn't care what the price is. It doesn't care what the mNAV is. The fund manager has to buy this stock, and they don't care what the price is. Market on close. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if it's $1 or it's $50,000. The index says I need to have this many shares. Get them to me by the market on close. That's it. That's a trade. It's that simple.
I mean, I get it. I just don't know if I can take that trade. And I'm in the trade. That's the problem. So I'm like, I'm sitting here shitting myself. I'm like, is that the whole reason why I'm holding these BMNRs?
Yes.
And
that's it.
How do you feel about that? I kind of think that what's going to happen is, what worries me is we're going to get to the point where there's a lot of hot air between NAV and equity prices. And then I'm worried that the market's crypto is going to catch one of their crashes. Everyone's going to exit out. The gap's going to close so much that it might even start trading under NAV. And when it does that, I'm worried that these hundreds or tens of companies are going to not have a reason to exist, and they're going to start selling their underlying asset. And that's going to become like the ultimate leverage unwind. That's the part that worries me here.
But why would they have to sell their asset?
Because there's no reason for them to exist. If you're trading it under NAV, eventually no one cares about buying your share. You can't raise any more capital because you're raising it at completely under NAV.
Yeah, I mean it's like a distress situation. So and I agree. There's going to be, for every shitcoin, there's going to be one or two DATs that'll get added to an index, and they'll be successful. And you can justify paying $1 or $2 or $3 per dollar because the best in class will get added to the index, and power law distribution suggests that that'll receive all the capital. Perfectly understand that. So don't, the umpteenth one down the list, they're fucked, right? They'll do a raise.
That one that's fucked, is that not going to be the one that lands up having to dump their assets or gets taken over by some corporate takeover? They take it over. They take it over at under net asset value. They then sell it on the market for net asset value irresponsibly, just getting it out, and that causes a cascade of a whole lot of these treasury companies imploding. That's the part that worries me.
Well, the issue is, and I've been thinking about this because I think this is a bear market trade that Maelstrom is definitely going to be involved in. The special situations of stress for these DAT companies. The problem is that it's not as easy as an ETF where I just buy the undervalued ETF and I put it back to the issuer and I get back par, right? These are corporate entities. So I need to accumulate enough stock to call an AGM, to have a vote, to then force management to do what I want, right? If management wants to play hardball and obstructive, this becomes expensive and time consuming. So yes, the discount's got to be massive for me to go and plump my money in an asset where I can't get out, and then hope that I can somehow redeem for the company selling these crypto. But it's going to take months or years, and fights in the courts and proxy battles is not easy. So I'm not really worried about this sort of cascading effect because of how difficult it is to unwind this trade, because it's not like it's just an ETF where there's a rule, I send it to you by the end of the trading day, I get back my assets. This is a company, and I need to go through the whole corporate legal fucking bullshit in America to get my money back. So it's difficult. I'm just saying it's not I don't think it's not as quick.
It's not as quick, but you agree with me that there are going to be very, very good bargains at the end of the cycle where you're going to be able to pick up shares in treasury companies for 50% of NAV. And exactly like we did with Grayscale. Remember the Grayscale discount before it became an ETF, and we just kept buying it at a 50% discount and we just chilled? That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, but you couldn't close that discount.
Yeah, you just
this
waited.
You can close.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no. You were trading a premium trade. You were not doing what I'm talking about, which is I buy the stock, I have it, above 5 or 10 or whatever the percentage is. I force a vote to say, hey, we should unwind this amount of whatever crypto, and then they do it after however many months or years and paying millions of dollars in legal fees. Right? It's not the same trade.
Yes, yeah, I agree with you. But yeah, I'm worried that these DATs are the best thing for the cycle, but I think they're also going to end the cycle because I think that not everyone is Michael Saylor.
The DATs, when a few DATs capitulate and start actually selling crypto, that'll be the bottom of the cycle. At the top of the cycle, they'll just be trading at $5 or $1, whatever the mNAV is. They'll go to a massive discount, and then it'll get so ridiculous that maybe funds like Maelstrom and some others who have a balance sheet to be able to do this will buy it at 10 cents on the dollar, go through the rigmarole to release these crypto assets, and by the time you start selling, that'll be the bottom of the market.
Which assets do you think are good enough for Wall Street to actually have these DATs? Obviously, Bitcoin, ETH, Sol. I've seen a BNB one. I'm invested in a ton one. There's one or two Hyperliquid ones. There's someone 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗪. How far do you think these things go? Like, do you think it's going to be the top 100 coins? Do you think it's like the top 20 coins? Where do you think Wall Street's appetite for crypto is at the moment?
As long as the market's going up, and I don't know how much the banker fees are on these trades, but I'm sure they're 3, 4, 5%.
5%, yeah.
5%. Yeah, that's great business, right? For all these investment banks, they'll do every single asset. Everyone. If the asset said "fuck me in the ass," they'll do that asset too.
There goes the video of YouTube. But it's been good chatting to you. I love it. This is too good. Okay, but I mean, it's spoken like someone who really understands the bankers, right? Because it's exactly that. They don't care what they're selling. It's like that scene from The Boiler Room or from what's the movie? Not The Boiler Room with Leonardo. Wolf of Wall Street. Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah.
Yeah. I got this thing on my desk. It's the hardest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's this treasury company on Cardano.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically how it plays out. All right. Speaking of Cardano, let's actually move on to shitcoins. I must say, the last time I actually met you and we had a chat, it was in Dubai. It was a token 2049, and you said to me, buy 𝗙𝗙𝗙. So I bought 𝗙𝗙𝗙. 𝗙𝗙𝗙 bought me a new house. Also, 𝗙𝗙𝗙 is paying for my kids' university. All right. So, what are you looking at now, sir? I mean, I'm interested to see the altcoins that you're looking at now. I mean, let me maybe start off with one. Are you still very bullish on Athena? Because it sounds like they're making all the right noises. Treasury company, their circulation's doubled in terms of coins, 6 billion to 12 billion. The leverage is coming back into the markets. The yield's coming back into the market. It just feels like there's like, how are you feeling about that trade?
I'll move a little bit higher. So I have a macro thesis around stablecoins. I'll be speaking about this in Japan on Monday. The essay that corresponds to the presentation will come out Monday or Tuesday next week. And essentially, I'm arguing that people are not thinking big enough and how Besant and Co. are going to use stablecoins to reverse some of the de-dollarization. And by that, I mean, take euro-dollar flows and bring them onshore into the US and bank the global south and give them dollars, even if their regulators don't want them to have them. And they're going to use a stablecoin as the means to do it. And what's the point? Well, a stablecoin has to earn yield for the sponsor, for the issuer, and so they're going to buy treasury bills at whatever rate Besant is selling them. And so I think that, and I'm going to argue the nice round number, I think that by the end of 2028, we have upwards of 10 trillion in circulation on stablecoins in aggregate, dollar-pegged stablecoins. And what does that mean? And in the essay and the presentation, I'm going to talk about Athena, 𝗙𝗙𝗙, and Hyperliquid. The first thing people are going to want to do when they've got a stablecoin after they've got 2-3% yield on the T-bill from the issuer is reach out on the yield curve for those who are so inclined. And the safest, and I use safe in quotation marks because of course there's risk in all of these trades, the safest endogenous yield within crypto is lending money to speculators. And that's what Athena is. It packages up a basis trade where you go short a perpetual swap or a fixed date future versus long crypto, Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, What are you doing? You're lending money to speculators who want to go long, and they're getting paid for it in the terms of a yield embedded in this derivatives contract. This trade has been around since crypto's been in existence. I've been talking about it for over a decade. The guy at Athena and his team are just the ones to package it up in the right wrapper and a DeFi wrapper, make it easy for people to buy this thing. So I think Athena can be earning hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue off of interest income from doing this trade. And once Athena starts, buying back their token, I know I think per their proposal, they have to hit one more exchange listing or something before they activate the token buybacks. Then Athena goes up, is mooning, right? And so I haven't finished the model yet, but I think this is going to be one of the best performing stablecoins. I think Athena overtakes Circle in terms of circulating supply by the end in the next 12 months. So it'll be Tether, then Athena, then Circle, or whoever else.
That's a big prediction. That's a big prediction. When I listen to your thesis, I tend to agree with you there because I get it. I get it. And I've seen this stablecoin trade. Before you carry on, I want to ask you a question about stablecoins. So there's a lot of stablecoins that are launching. There is PayPal USD and Athena, and there's USDT and USDC and Stripe Stripe have everyone's having a stablecoin. In the real world, where do you see people swapping one stablecoin to another? Like, where do you swap your USDT for USDC or your USDC for PayPal USD? You've got like this whole array of $1 backed stablecoins, which are equal, but actually not equal because they all have slightly different risk profiles. Maybe you trust Circle more than you. Where do you swap? Where do you see the big banks swapping, or where do you see the big users swapping from one stablecoin to another? Because I can't find the answer to that. The closest that I've got is on.
I don't think so. I think it's a distribution game, right? So the tip of the spear are social media companies. Who's going to bank all these people who don't already have Tether outside of the United States? It's Facebook and X, right? If you think about the two dominant, Instagram, WhatsApp, X in terms of social media, right? So Zuckerberg and Musk are going to both roll out wallets. I don't know which stablecoin they're going to choose. Obviously, Tether is the most liquid right now. Maybe I'm sure the Tether team is speaking to these guys and trying to get into that flow. But that'll be interesting to see which one that distribution arm chooses. Again, the game is all. Go ahead.
Interesting that you mention Zuckerberg and Musk, but you don't mention Telegram, because Telegram has a billion users. I mean, it has 900 something million. Users.
Tom's already there. I don't know how much. I haven't looked at the Tom blockchain. Is kind of fugazi in my opinion. There's not really any real activity there. I don't know what's going on with the whole legal situation with Powell and what he's had to agree to not to get out of bail and whatever situation he's in. So I'm not exactly sure that's going to be the preferred solution. But again, I'm talking about stablecoins are now a national policy of Besant and Trump. Are they really going to give it to Powell, or are they going to give it to Zuckerberg and Musk? They're not giving it to Powell. To Powell. They're going to go with the American people who are sitting in America and they pay taxes in America and they donate to the Republican Party, right? They're not going to support Powell or protect him, really. Because what is going to happen is you're basically going to say, going into the Philippines and saying, hey, everyone in the Philippines who was using peso, I know you really want dollars. You couldn't get dollars before because your regulators wouldn't allow JP Morgan and Citibank to open a branch and bank you. But we're going to give you this thing called a WhatsApp account. And everyone in the Philippines has a Facebook account. And now WhatsApp has a stablecoin. Let's call it Tether, whatever, USDT. So now you can request payment from abroad. A lot of Filipinos work in the Middle East. They work around Southeast Asia as domestic helpers. They do construction, all sorts of things. And now they say, hey, don't pay me in your local currency. I want Tether. You can pay through WhatsApp, avoid the banking fees. It's instantaneous. And now, again, the whole of the Philippines is dollarized. And there's nothing the Philippine Central Bank can do about it. And so, but they can go and complain to, shut down the Facebook office or try to put some local executives in jail. And then Trump has a choice. Do I support these people who are the tip of the spear for me in this dollar craze? Okay, great. What do I say? I will tariff your goods 100% if you discriminate on Facebook being able to offer WhatsApp payments. Guess what happens? Those payments go away. Oh, Besant goes, hey, XYZ elite politician in the Philippines, I know you've been stealing people's money and putting it in JP Morgan in New York. I'm going to sanction you and take all your billions of dollars unless you let Facebook put their stablecoin into the Philippines. And guess what happens? No.
Do you remember I mentioned this video is going to be taken down off YouTube? But now we know for sure. I mean, we know for sure. I mean, this is a fun discussion, but no one's ever going to see it. Too good. Okay, so Athena, I'm with you on Athena 100%. A bold prediction around a bigger market cap than Circle, but I've bought into it. 𝗙𝗙𝗙, I guess you're buying that because that's where you get the best yields. That's where
you spend your money, right?
Yeah.
Now, everyone's got stable coins. Okay, how do I use them to buy a coffee to, in a 7-Eleven or convenience store? I'm traveling around the world. My domestic bank's credit situation is kind of fugazi, so, it doesn't really work so well most of the time. But 𝗙𝗙 is great. I have an 𝗙𝗙 on my iPhone. I've got a physical card in my wallet. So anywhere around the world, I guess, tap and pay. And now if you've got, hundreds of millions or billions of people who've been dollar banked through Facebook and X, what are they going to do? How are they going to spend that money? They're just going to, they could use 𝗙𝗙, spend their money. And now this power is sort of the amount of money that they're spending and paying fees and all that kind of stuff. So I think that 𝗙𝗙 becomes this amazing way for everyone to just spend a little bit of stable coins that they have on the things that they want to spend it on, and using a traditional network like Visa.
Okay, tell me about Hyperliquid. So what's the thesis around Hyperliquid? I know you're a perps guy.
Hyperliquid.
You created perps. You created the perpetual derivative.
So my call, I'm going to write this in the answer. I think Hyperliquid becomes the largest exchange in the world, bigger than Binance, because everything is going to move on chain when you have all these new people, again, who have stable coins. Why do they have stable coins? Because it's the U.S. national policy to give it to them. And what are they going to do once they've spent a little bit of money, they've gotten a better yield on Athena. Now they're going to degen because inflation is kicking their ass because everybody's printing money. The only way they escape is to speculate. Where are you going to speculate? Well, here's a native chain, Hyperliquid, and it's cheap. And I earn hype sometimes if I trade, so I can have an ownership in the platform per se. And I think Hyperliquid is going to take over the new issue market. So I just got off the phone with one of a project that I invested in, and they said they're going to TGE in September. I said, so which exchanges are you launching? And they said, XYZ, major exchange. And I asked them how much they're paying. And they said, something like 7 or 10% of those token supply was going. And I said, why? Did you think about Hyperliquid? Look at what happened with the Pump.Fund launch. Now, I know this was a completely shitty launch. I lost a fuck ton of money on this trade. I'm kind of kicking myself, but whatever.
I'm down on the ICO, but I'm up because I bought the bottom on the way up. But
Hyperliquid.
I'll show you.
Yeah. It's just bad trade, whatever. Piece of shit. Hyperliquid launched a pre-market perpetual future or perpetual swap, was trading hundreds of millions of dollars a day. Most liquid place to lay off risk, right? More liquid than Binance and in the Bybit and OKX. Then the spot launches, and I believe in the first few days, the pump USDT market, USDC, whatever the stablecoin is on Hyperliquid, was the most liquid for a while. I just checked today because I was talking to a project, and it's number 3 right behind Bybit.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, it doesn't really cost you anything to list there, especially once Hyperliquid's, I think it's HLP3, whatever that tech protocol that they're launching that allows you to do permissionless listing. Mm-hmm. Now, why would you pay CZ 10% of your token supply? Hyperliquid's going to get you there. It's going to get you the trading volume. It's going to get you the clients because we've got millions and billions of people now with stable coins. And so now they're going to completely disintermediate the new issue market. And we're going to go back to 2017 craziness where anyone and everyone can list. It doesn't cost you anything. And you can take those savings and incentivize your users to use your platform more. So I think that go ahead. I
have a theory based on what you're saying. Like you're saying 𝗙𝗙, you're saying Hyperliquid, you're saying like the bigger protocols, Athena. In the last cycle, I used to go a lot down the risk curve or up the risk curve to try and get my returns at the end of the cycle. So I go down to like shitcoin number 9,900 to try and get some returns. This cycle, I'm actually not doing that. I'm like much more concentrated. I'm in the top guys. I'm in Athena. I'm in Chainlink. I'm in ETH. And all I've done is I've just upped my leverage a little bit. So like I've just gone on to me, a 3x on ETH or a 3x on Hyperliquid is much better than going to find a coin which is going to give me 3 times the return on Hyperliquid on a risk-adjusted basis. I don't know. Is it like, am I missing something in terms of a strategy?
Well, what I am, obviously, I'm not trying to hit 1,000x return on any coin, because then I've got to suffer a lot of zeros in my portfolio. I want to deploy lots of capital. I don't want to worry about this protocol is not going to exist in 2 days because somebody fucked up some commit. Yeah, or whatever, right? The clients are all fugazi, it's all made up bot farms in Bangladesh or whatever, right? So I want to make sure that when I'm deploying large capital, it's there. Number one. Number two, I want to get paid the fucking revenue that these protocols make. And some of these protocols make a lot of fucking money, and I don't get any of it. I'm fucking tired of that shit. And so I love it that 97% of P&L and Hyperliquid goes to buy back the Hype token. I love it that EtherFi has initiated buybacks of their token. I got to give Guy and Athena a little bit of shit. They need to get that fucking token buyback thing going. And once they do, watch the price of Athena rocket, because it's been held down now because they're not passing along any of the money to us. And we need our fucking money, because what's the fucking point of doing this if all this cash is just sitting in the treasury of these protocols? Pass it back to us, the fucking token holders and users. So I want protocols that, number one, are going to have product market fit. We have clients spending real money, and then they're taking that money and they're giving it back to me, the fucking token holder. And that's what I want to own. And that's why I'm going to own those 3 protocols in size, because of this whole stablecoin thesis that I have in my mind.
I agree. What about things like Chainlink? It's also got a big bid all of a sudden. It's become also like a darling of Wall Street. Kind of see the XRP army moving towards Chainlink. Is it on your radar, or is that not one that you're
not
looking
really? At? I mean, I'm not really super in deep on the whole Oracle space and what they're doing. Maybe they moved past Oracle and they're doing something else. I don't really know.
Okay. Before I let you go, I finally took the plunge, and I want to just show you what I did. I don't have it in front of me, but I finally bought a punk, even though I swore I'd never ever buy a crypto punk. This is what threw me over the edge. It was you and Raoul Paul on the same day, both telling me that punks are going to outperform ETH. They ended up buying a punk. You're pretty bullish, right?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, as I said in the tweet, right, everything that we do apart from just like sustenance, right, is a status game. It's all a status game. And so if the status game in the analog is art and cars and, big house, I don't know, whatever, then what's the status game on the internet? It's these rare objects that have provenance, that have a story, that are the first of their kind. Punks is the first of its kind, right? And now afterwards, we have all these other 10,000, units of whatever, generative art things. So I want to own the punks. It'll always be the first one.
Yes.
And that's why I want to own it. So I think that punks are going to be very liquid. No, obviously they're the most liquid collection in all of NFTs, and obviously that. Not saying very much because it is a very liquid space today. But fast forward when ETH is 20,000, okay, you've got a lot of people with a lot of money, and they need to show off that they've got a lot of money, other than like being a retard and putting, oh, look at my ledger balance. They say, yo, here's this punk I own. I own this fucking pixel thing that's this like little face, and it's worth, I don't know, millions of dollars.
I am the retard. I own a pixel face that I paid $250,000 for.
So yeah. So I'm a great human. I'm cool. I'm rich because I own this.
You know what kills me? Right? You know what kills me? When I want to go on vacation with my wife, and she wants to go to this hotel versus that hotel, or she wants to fly. I give a shit about like the extra $5,000 that like we spend here or there, and then I go and drop $250,000 on like this pixelated thing. And I mean, I don't know. I can't justify.
It's an investment. It's okay. It's just an investment. It's just
it's an investment.
It's the same way someone a dude who dropped $100 million in a basket. Why'd you do that? Oh, it's just an investment.
It's an investment. Holy shit. All right. I got it. Anything else that you're looking at? So the 3 majors, you're looking at the punks. Anything else that's occupying your mind?
Enjoying life. Ski season. Not really.
Ski season. And I don't know. I've read rumors that you're going to a big party very soon.
We'll see. I don't know. I gotta stay in shape. Going to the gym,
Yeah.
Working on my forehand.
I see. You're actually looking ripped, bro. You're looking much more ripped than the last time I saw you. You're obviously on some kind of new regime or something, because it's looking fucking good.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, my brother. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for coming here, dropping alpha bombs. Enjoy Japan, and enjoy whatever else you're gonna do before or after that. Can't wait. I can't wait to have you. Bro, you've made my morning. Like, honestly, I'm starting a WhatsApp group now with, with the mutual friends. And we're going to start planning now because we can't miss a beat when you get here.
Yeah. All right. Let's
All
do
right,
it.
brother. Sending you much love. Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, man. What a day. What a day. What a day. And what a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful way to end the week. Like, wow. How's that, eh? I mean, best vibe, best guy. Just an unbelievable human. Unbelievable fucking human. Guys, I'll see you guys on the weekend. We're going to do some bot trading workshops. And otherwise, I'll see you guys again on Monday. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. That was like really one of my... I want a dopamine. I'm having a lot of fun here. See you guys again on Monday. Until then, trade well, my friends.